Amazing. There we go. Well, thank you very much. Welcome everyone, whether you're watching this live or on record. Thank you so much for taking the time to come along and watch our presentation about Think Pacific and the projects available out in Fiji through Cardiff University. My name is Sienna. I am a program/project coordinator at Think Pacific. So within my job role, I do lots of pre-departure work, helping you guys who are potentially interested in joining Think Pacific coming onto a project. And then out in Fiji, I also work as a project coordinator, so managing and running the projects on the ground. So hopefully I'm in a good place to kind of take you through a whistle-stop tour of Think Pacific, who we are, what we do, why we do what we do, and give you a really good insight into our projects and what they involve. So I will start with just a quick background onto Think Pacific and who we are. So Think Pacific, we are a registered Fijian charity as well as a UK social enterprise. So we're one organisation working with under two halves, I suppose. So UK side, where I am currently, we deal with sort of the operations, the logistics, the planning, and Fiji side, our charity, are the ones on the ground that deliver on our projects. And what we aim to do as Think Pacific is to deliver sustainable development programs within rural Fiji. So we, as an organisation, have been operating since 2009, so quite a few years now, but still very new, I suppose, within the area. And as an organisation, we aim to be, I like to think anyway, a small and personable organisation so that you guys feel welcome, part of the team, but also comfortable whilst you embark on a super big and very exciting journey. Within Think Pacific, we run in collaboration with loads of different partner organisations, and the big one of that being the Fijian government. So we work very closely with the Fijian government and lots of different businesses, organisations and charities out in the Fiji Islands to help deliver on our aims and initiatives. And on top of that, very excitingly, we also work closely with over 100 universities globally, of course, including Cardiff University. I was actually a student at Cardiff myself, so I'm extremely grateful to everything the university did in helping me with my journey with Think Pacific. And fingers crossed that will be the same for you guys. So a question we get asked a lot, whilst kind of giving that context to Fiji and to Think Pacific, is why Fiji? Why is that where you guys work? And I mean, to start with, Fiji is, in my opinion, the best place in the world. It is an incredible country and it is the home of Think Pacific. It's where we were born from. It's our almost like our proudest thing is that we can say we work with Fiji. It not only is it absolutely beautiful, as you can see in the photo, it's also incredibly fascinating. It's a very diverse culture. Fiji sits geographically right in the heart of sort of the South Pacific. So we have influences from Micronesia, Melanesia, Polynesia, which makes the culture a huge melting pot of so many different customs and traditions and ways of life. One of those elements being a really close communal way of living. Fiji is a very collectivist society. Everyone supports one another, everyone helps one another, and that is what we as an organisation try to embody. Also, through working out in Fiji, it gives opportunities to the people that come out to have a really valuable and unique perspective through working with and collaborating with Fijian people. I'm sure it's a completely different viewpoint and outlook on the world than we've normally seen. So it's an amazing opportunity to have the chance to engage with people from the other side of the world. But a wider purpose as to why we work solely in Fiji is having a partnership is really important to us. So Think Pacific has built up this huge networks of partners and organizations that we closely engage with and work with. And as it says at the top here, we believe that sustainable projects require long-term relationships. So within this big network that we work in, everyone has the same goal, and that is to reach the UN Sustainable Development Goals and a Fiji National Development Plan. So it means that we can have a super targeted impact and hopefully produce the best possible projects for you guys as potential volunteers, but also for our partner organisations and the communities in which we work in. So to kickstart, I always think it's nice to start thinking about why you might want to join a Think Pacific project. And the truth is, there are hundreds of reasons. I could probably sit here for an hour and talk about all the different reasons why I believe you should join a Think Pacific project. But really, it boils down to you and what you want to come out, what you want to get out of it. What's your motivation? What's your passion? Why are you deciding to join Think Pacific? So we've sat down with previous volunteers, with partner organisations, and these are 6 reasons that keep coming up time and time again. So if you want to learn, if you want to experience a brand new culture, a completely different way of life, see new world perspectives and unique perspectives on the world, then absolutely I think Pacific Project really, really enables you to do that. If you'd like to challenge yourself, we always say to everyone that our projects are challenging, they're tough. We know they're not for everyone, but for those of you who are looking to get outside of your comfort zone and challenge yourself and kind of do something that's so big and so different, then absolutely I think Pacific Project enables you to do that. If you want to contribute, a huge part of being a Think Pacific volunteer is contributing towards our partners' aims and initiatives, and subsequently you would be supporting initiatives of Fijian-led development, which is a really exciting thing to be a part of. And on top of that, it gives you an amazing experience. I think for me on my CV, having that I volunteered with Think Pacific, that I was a part of that, and all the things that I learned both professionally and skills I developed personally as well, was absolutely, like, it was unrivaled. And having that hands-on experience is so vital when, I think, if we're thinking more practically looking towards the world of work and careers, it is, yeah, as I said, invaluable to have on your CV. The 5th one that I think comes up a lot of the time is the sustainable elements of our project. We're really proud that we aim for our projects not to be a flash in the pan. They're sustainable. There's long-term funding, monitoring, and evaluations that go into our projects that mean that that impact is not just felt for the period that you're in country, that it continues much longer after you leave. And to finish off with a nice cheesy one of the big reasons that you might want to join a Think Pacific project is connections. It's guaranteed you will make lifelong friends whilst you're with Think Pacific, whether that's with your fellow volunteers, with your host community, with your host family. You really do have the opportunity to build deep and strong connections with other people. And like for me personally, I actually ended up living with a bunch of the people that I volunteered with together for 2 years after the project. So I can speak testament to the fact that they do become your very best friends. So something that I always like to talk about very briefly before diving into the projects themselves are how are our projects designed? Because I think it's really important whenever you're doing something like this, whether it's Think Pacific or not, that you understand the organisation, what they're trying to achieve, and sort of almost the inner workings of how those projects come to exist. So for Think Pacific, all of our projects start with consultation. So this means that we sit down with our partners, with government ministries, with NGOs, businesses, charities, and we kind of say, what are you doing and how can we help? What would you like to see from Think Pacific? So once we've sat down with them, we've sketched out a huge plan of, okay, these are the aims, this is how we get here, this is how the projects support that. We then go and present to provincial councils. So we'll speak with provincial councils, with village headmen, village elders. They will then speak with the community and decide whether they would like to receive a Think Pacific project. And if they would, they then put in a bid and invite us to come and have a project within their community. Once that invitation has taken place, that's all the planning, the prep, the groundwork goes in. And before you know it, stage 3 is where you guys step in as our international volunteers, assisting with the delivery of those projects on the ground in Fiji, as directed and dictated by our Fijian partners and our in-country managers. And then the final step, that sustainable element, is once you've left the project, once you've left your village and you've left Fiji, there is continued funding, feedback, and monitoring that enables that impact to be felt much longer than the 3 weeks that you're there. So we're looking at continuing upskilling of Fijian youth, providing grants for local charities, and making sure that those aims and initiatives are continued to be supported. But with this, the really key thing to understand is that it is all facilitated by your participation. without international volunteers coming out, these projects simply would not work. It's the vital piece in the puzzle, and hopefully is something that really excites you that you would get to be a part of. And I talk about this a lot because it's something that we're really proud of. And it's the fact that we are government backed. We're one of the only organisations that do what we do. In fact, the only one in Fiji that can say we work with the government, we're partnered with the government. So we have agreements or MOUs with various ministries, such as the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Youth and Sports, the Ministry of Italki Affairs, which is traditional Fijian arts, culture, and heritage. And we also work very closely with over 70 NGOs across 10 different sectors out in Fiji. So you can see a couple listed here. YC4MH is Youth Champs for Mental Health. It is a mental health and wellbeing charity based in Fiji. Precious Plastics is an environment and conservation based organisation. Fusion Hub looks at business development. And as I mentioned earlier, all of these organisations that we work with aim to support reaching the FNDP and the UN SDGs. Another thing, before going into the projects that we really want you guys as potential volunteers to consider is what the idea of a volunteer means to us. And for Think Pacific, it's really important to understand that we don't view you guys as superheroes or saviors. There is no idea of changing or saving because that does not need to happen. To us, a volunteer is someone who comes onto our project on a level playing field with the community that they're working in, and your contribution comes through enthusiastic participation, approaching the project with a learning mindset, and collaborating in a cross-cultural exchange. So very much working alongside the youth community together towards those shared airs and initiatives. And we like to think this kind of sets us apart. It makes us a little bit different to other organisations because what we believe to be a volunteer is potentially quite different to what a lot of other definitions would suggest. So yeah, we really want you guys to understand that there's no saving, changing, preaching or teaching. It's all about equal communication, collaboration and working together. So how will that look in 2023? These are some of our goals and aspirations for the year. And as you can see, they are pretty big. So to highlight a couple, we're going to have over 40 in-country projects this summer across many different provinces in Fiji. We'll have 200 youth funded and upskilled through our projects, and over 3 million Fijian dollars directly invested into Fiji's wider economy. So these are huge targets that we're looking to hit, but they're not unattainable, and we can guarantee that this is going to happen. It's almost not an aspiration. This is what will happen this summer, and something that hopefully you would all be really excited and proud to be a part of, because I know that I am. Just to give a bit of context as to why I say this isn't aspirations, this is what's going to happen, is because it's tried and tested, it's proven. So since Think Pacific has begun operating, we have been able to invest over $10 million into Fiji through our project funds. We've built over 70 buildings, whether that's community health clinics, kindergartens, village halls, communities. There's been over 200 jobs created for local Fijian people, and over 257 community members trained to lead physical activity. So this is just a snapshot of what Think Pacific has been up to in the past 10 years. And it's only going to get bigger and more exciting from here. So now we understand a little bit around the background of Think Pacific. The exciting bit that everyone's always waiting for is to find out more about the projects themselves. So Think Pacific, all of our projects offer you the opportunity to gain global experience and personal development in an unrivaled setting. And this happens through cultural exchange and engaging with communities. So all of our projects are based in rural villages and communities in Fiji. And as mentioned, they are all designed and developed in collaboration with our partners. So as part of this, you'll be having a homestay. So you'll be adopted into a Fijian family. You'll be staying with them, and of course, being completely immersed within rural lifestyle and traditional Fijian culture. Your time in the village will be bookended by a resort-based briefing and a final night of celebration after your project has ended. And we're not going to send you out into a village on your own. You'll be in a team of around 25 people. So potentially others from your university, as well as other universities across the UK, gap year students, career breakers, and anyone and everyone who's interested in joining one of our projects. The key with these projects are there is no prior experience required. Mindset is everything. So as long as you're coming out for the right reasons, you've got the right reason why, we would love to have you on a Think Pacific project. So what are these projects? We, for this summer, so 2023, have 4 different types of projects and 3 different project lengths. So we have the youth empowerment, mental health, sports development, and community build, most of which happen across a 1-month basis. We also have a 16-day youth empowerment project and a 2-month project, which is a combination of the youth empowerment and the community build, all of which I shall go into a little bit more detail about in a moment. A big question that we get asked a lot is why village life? Why are you based in rural communities? And not only does this come under request from our partners, but it, for us, is just the biggest honour and privilege to work in these communities. So you will be living and working and staying within one village. You'll be, as we mentioned, staying with a host family, but this village could be anywhere. You could be up in the highlands, in the jungle, up in the sort of mountains and the hills. You could be down by the coast, living by the sea or along the riverbanks. Your village could be anywhere in Fiji. And the thing I always say to people is try to get all expectations out of your head. I can try and explain to you what a Fijian village is like, but you'll never truly understand it and feel it until you're there. So go with an open mind, because I can guarantee the second you step foot into your village, you're going to fall in love with it. That being said, it is challenging. These villages are rural, they are remote, and it's really important for us to understand that whilst they are incredible and they're beautiful, it is a challenging experience to be fully immersed in that culture. A big part of it, I think, that maybe balances out that challenge is the amazing culture you do get to be a part of and seeing a really unique way of life. So, as I mentioned previously, Fiji is an incredibly communal way of living, and part of that is this idea of an open door culture. So no doors are ever closed in Fijian villages. You are always welcome in everyone's home, to the point that if you walk past someone's house, they'll invite you in for tea, for coffee, for cake, and they genuinely want you to come in. They want to meet you and get to know you. Another concept listed here, keri keri, is the idea that possessions are communally owned within the village. So again, coming back to that collectivist nature, everyone shares everything, everyone supports one another, help each other out, and possessions are owned by a community rather than an individual. And you can begin to get a sense of quite how special these villages are. And as mentioned earlier, they operate on an invitation only basis. So Fiji is unlike the UK in that here you can just go wherever you please. In Fiji, you have to be invited into these villages. You can't just waltz in one day and think, oh, I fancy taking a look. It doesn't work like that. You have to be invited in. So there are a handful of people that get to say they've seen and experienced a Fijian village, and even less people that get to say they've lived in it and been fully immersed within that experience. So it really, really is a privilege, and we do mean it when we say that. So your project will begin with a 3-day briefing and orientation within a resort briefing basis. So this will be where you'll get your in-country training. You'll basically spend your time getting ready for the village. So we'll look at cultures, customs, expectations, behaviours that are appropriate within the village. We'll also look at your project aims and initiatives and getting you ready for what you're going to be doing in country. But it also is a really nice time for you to just settle any nerves, to kind of get to terms with the fact that you are in Fiji, you're on the other side of the world, you're with a bunch of people you've never met before. So to be able to bond with one another, settle those nerves down a bit, and almost get your head in the space of okay, it's real and it's happening, is really, really important. It's also a nice time for you to set some personal and professional goals that you want to achieve on project. And we will be going for a nice little shopping trip as well, where you can get yourself kitted out in Fijian clothing and all the sorts ready for village life. Once your 3 days of briefing are up, you are going to be jumping into trucks, buses, maybe even a boat or two if need be, and heading off into your community. And the very first thing you'll do when you arrive is your sevu sevu. So this is a sort of a formality in Fijian culture whereby you are formally accepted into a village. It's not a special thing that gets put on for Think Pacific or for us as sort of visitors from the West. It's standard practice in Fijian culture that anytime a person enters a village for the first time, they do a sevu sevu. So this will be what will happen when you first arrive. You'll go into the village hall, a sevu sevu will happen, your leaders will do it on behalf of you. And once that's happened, you're officially part of the community. Everyone's up and they're hugging and they're welcoming you. And this is the point where you'll meet your host family. So whilst on project, your accommodation, you're not going to be staying in dorms or anything like that. You're living with the family in the heart of the village. And it really is the heart and soul of your experience. It's guaranteed. If you speak to anyone who has done Think Pacific in the past, they will talk about their family and the amazing time that they had living within the village. So families have requested to host you. We never go Oprah style with you get family, you get family, you get a volunteer. It's very much the families put themselves forward and say that they would love to host volunteers staying with them. And we have a minimum of 2 volunteers per household. So you would never be with a family on your own. And part of living in this family, when we say you'll be adopted, I'm not joking around. I mean it. They will treat you as their child. You'll be calling them mum and dad, which sounds ridiculous now, but believe me, you absolutely will. And you do become fully immersed into that culture. There is no special treatment as a volunteer. You eat Fijian food, you go to bed when Fijians go to bed, you wake up when they wake up, you muck in with the chores, with the housework, you potentially sleep on the floor on a mattress, you use the same facilities. You are absolutely living side by side with your Fijian family. And it's just the most amazing thing to do and to say that you've had that experience, let alone the phenomenal bonds that you will form with your family. I'm still in touch with my Fijian family. Every time I go back to Fiji, I go and visit them. And they just take the best care of you ever. Fijians by nature are so incredibly kind and warm and welcoming. It got to a point when I was a volunteer, I had a day where I was feeling a bit poorly, nothing too bad at all. But my Fijian grandmother was so worried about me that she slept at the end of my bed. And I was going, honestly, it's fine. Like, really, I'm okay. And she's like, no, no, I will stay here and I will make sure you're okay. So I think, to be honest, I get looked after better by my Fijian family than I do by my my actual family. So it really does go to show the extent to which they will support you and take care of you whilst you are out there. After a couple of days settling in, then you'll have a few days just to get acclimatized to the village, and before you know it, your project will begin. So Monday to Friday, your project itinerary will look like this. You'll start every day with your breakfast. A morning health clinic is run by your leaders. So every project will have 3 project leaders who will be living in the village alongside you, and their whole role is supporting you guys as volunteers and sort of managing the project in the immediate see on the ground. So every morning they'll run a health clinic for you guys to just check in on how everyone's doing. We'll then get everyone along to the morning session, so registration, getting people set up for the day, and then in the morning you'll have your project specific initiative. So depending on the project you do, it will vary, but this will either be where you're doing your workshops or you're doing your build. Then you'll have your lunchtime. After lunch, you will receive the culture course, which I'll go into more details about in a moment, before a daily debrief, another health clinic, some free time in the village, dinner, evening activity, and a 10 o'clock curfew. So you can see that we really do squeeze quite a lot into 24 hours. Hence why we always say to people these projects are full on, because you're going to be cramming an awful lot into quite a short amount of time. So just to reiterate, the way the projects work, they all consist of a project-specific initiative and the culture course. So either the build, the youth, the mental health, and the sports in the morning, and the culture course in the afternoon. With that in mind, a community development project is our building project. So the way that this works is you guys as volunteers will be building a community health clinic within a rural village. And this project runs on behalf of the Ministry of Health to expand the provision of medical care and increase the capacity of local nurses and health teams. To provide a little bit of context, within Fiji, if a village doesn't have a community health clinic, then they're not able to access certain levels of funding, resources, and equipment because the government won't provide it unless they have that health clinic. However, building a health clinic is time and cost, it's time heavy and it's costly for the village. So Think Pacific almost steps in as the middleman and goes, don't you worry, we'll help with this. So the outcomes of the build is that the village will receive a community health centre, somewhere for their local community health worker to operate from, which also then means that they are entitled to receive training, resources, funding, equipment, and it reduces the time and money needed for villagers to receive low-level healthcare because they're not having to travel. Furthermore, the bill doubles up as a training scheme for the youth of the village. So some of the youth within the village will be highlighted by the community and they will be working alongside you on the build, receiving sort of upskilling and training from our Fijian build manager so that they can then use those skills to seek further employment. So with the build, we're not, again, looking for experts. It's all going to be overseen by our Fijian site managers and our Fijian build managers. So you will get to know all of the information and skills that you need in country. It is obviously a hands-on project. It's physically demanding, but it's one of the most exciting ones because there is a lot of ceremony and events that come with this. Lots of celebrations and parties when the roof goes on, when the first foundation gets laid, when there's an opening ceremony. So it's a really, really culturally significant project, as well as a really cool thing to say that you've done and been a part of. Then there are other projects fall under the category of youth. So these projects are the youth empowerment projects. The Youth Empowerment Project covers 6 different topic areas from physical activity, environment, leadership, enterprise, mental health, and public health. And what will happen is every day in the morning, you'll be taking part and delivering seminars, workshops, and activities alongside the youth. So again, it's not we're teaching them, it's we're working together on these sessions. And it's all covering these areas. So you'll have the opportunity to participate in them, but also to lead the sessions that you feel really passionate about. On top of that, we also have more specific projects. So for the physical activity and the mental health, we have projects that specifically focus in on those 2 areas. So for mental health, this is looking at advocacy, healthy habits, peer-to-peer support, leadership, care strategies, and physical activities. And for sports, we're looking at introducing multi-sports and coaching skills and drills into the community, as well as the wider benefits of sports, such as healthy mind and body. So expect on that one that you're going to be very, very active and up to lots of different exciting things. With that in mind, I talk a lot about youth. It's probably worth highlighting what I mean by youth. In Fiji, a youth is anyone who's between aged 18 and 35. And all of these projects, the youth, the sports, and the mental health, all aim to stimulate conversations on really important topics, but at a grassroots level. So it's not high level academia, it's very much opening the door to new conversations, learning and sharing from one another. They're interactive and they happen every day in the morning. And they are designed again with our partners. So they help us put together the plans for these projects so that they're done in an appropriate way for the village. Oh, lovely stuff. So once you have done your project-specific initiative in the morning. In the afternoon, we will be having the culture course, and this actually comes under request of the Ministry of Italki Affairs, so Arts, Heritage and Culture of Traditional Fijian Lifestyle. And it is all about preserving and promoting Fijian culture. So for you guys, it is phenomenal because you will get to experience traditional Fijian knowledge that unless you are physically in the village, you would never ever have the access to. So things such as mat weaving, basket making, cooking, farming, you'll get to learn so much. But for the community, it's fantastic because they're getting to share their knowledge and experience of Fijian culture, empowering themselves with it and getting excited by their own culture. But for those who are leading the sessions, it's really fantastic for their own personal and professional development. So an idea of what these culture courses might look like. We can see some photos from this summer. So we have the lovely ladies over here who have made some sasa brooms, which are brooms made out of coconuts. Then on the next photo, we can see a woven bag. So this would have been made out of panda sleeves. And again, you can see on the floor lots of different mats, and that is all woven by the village as well. Farming is a big one. So Fiji is very much a subsistence way of living. They eat what they grow and what's available to them. So you get to understand the process of how that works within the village. And I'm sure try your hand at planting and harvesting some food. We also have things such as learning a traditional meke dance. So as you can see, the guys here all dressed up, ready to perform that back to the village. Meke is much like the haka in New Zealand. So it's all about storytelling through movement and through dance. So you will have the opportunity to learn the meke of your village because it will be completely unique. And on the very last night, you'll get to present that back to your community as sort of a thank you. And tell you what, it goes down an absolute hoot. No matter how good you think you are at dancing, Fijians will always show us up. So it's just a lot of fun for us, but also really nice for them to see the culture being shared and appreciated by others. And then this last photo you can see is billy raft making. So making rafts to go fishing on out of bamboo. And as you can see, it's an all hands on deck situation where all of the village are getting involved and helping you guys to learn about Fijian culture. Wonderful. So after your community time, you then have a bit of free time, which is your time to make your project your own, your opportunity to do the things that you are passionate about, seek out the opportunities that you want to experience and make your project your own. So this could be time to do some sports, join in with village activities, go and meet new members of the community, have tea with them, spend one-to-one time with your family, or it could be time where you do your washing, you read a book, you write your journal. It very much is your time to do with as you please. And then we also have village-based time, and this is where you guys will be able to give back to your community and complete projects that they've asked you to. So this could be doing litter picks, could be helping set up kids' homework clubs when they're back from school, and setting up sports tournaments. It really depends on what your village would like and what you would like to contribute whilst you're there. So that is every Monday to Friday. The weekends look slightly different. So you're still in a village, you're still on project. We're not going to kind of parachute you out to go and sunbathe on a beach for the weekend. You're still very much in that village. It's just an opportunity for extended activity. So Saturday is a team bonding day, essentially, with the village. So your opportunity to really spend some more time in the village and its immediate surroundings. This could mean going on hikes, going on treks, visiting another village, walking to the river or to a waterfall. It could be team bonding activities in the village, setting up sports days and sports tournaments. Or it could be if there is another pre-existing event we can tag along to, like a rugby tournament we can go and watch. It will very much depend village to village and what your area has to offer. And then Sunday is the 180 of this. So Sunday is the Sabbath in Fiji. Villages are largely Christian and will observe the Sabbath on a Sunday. And as members of the community, we ask you to do the same. So no activities, very much a day of rest. It's a chance for you to relax, put your feet up, plan for the week ahead, and have a weekly one-to-one session with your leader just to check in on how you're doing, and make sure you're getting everything out of project as you can. Cool. So something that I mentioned earlier and spoke about throughout is the challenging nature of project. And we really want people to understand that it's not a holiday, and we know that it's not for everyone, and that's absolutely fine. Everyone who comes on a Think Pacific project will face a challenge that is part and parcel of the project. So some challenges that have been listed previously and things that you will definitely experience whilst on project, things such as bucket showers, so cold water showers, washing with a bucket or maybe in a stream or a river. The diet in Fiji is very different to what we're used to. It's quite repetitive because where they grow what they eat, there's only so much that you can grow, and it does tend to be quite carbohydrate heavy. The climate, obviously you're in the tropics, so some days you're going to have tropical heat and sunshine, some days you're going to have tropical rain. So really important to consider that if you're just going because you think it's going to be warm and you're going to get a tan, that's not a given by any stretch of the imagination. Phone signal and connectivity is extremely limited, so do be prepared whilst you're in the village to go completely offline and cut off from the outside world. The levels of amenities and sanitation are quite a bit lower than the UK. So things like electricity, not always a given in a village. Running water varies, so there might not be ample running water, and that might be used for drinking. So like we say, bucket showers and stuff, that all comes into effect, potentially pit toilets and stuff like that. Again, it's a very different way of culture, and whilst it is fascinating and really interesting, it is very different to what we're used to and can take some time to get adjusted into, such as that communal way of living can also mean that you sometimes feel there's a lack of personal space. You're always around people and people are always interested in what you're doing, so and feel quite full on sometimes. And of course, you are the other side of the world, so you are far from home and from loved ones. So really important to consider that whilst coming out on project. And once your village time is up, on the very last day, you'll have a very emotional farewell with your family and with the community, and you'll leave the village and travel to a final night at a resort, where you have the opportunity to have a final farewell dinner with your team, relax, celebrate your successes, give us some feedback about your time on the project, and get ready for the next step on your adventure. I would like to highlight all of our projects are dry projects, so there is no alcohol whilst you're, I Think Pacific volunteer, including that briefing period and final night on project as well. So be mindful that, yeah, that is our code of conduct, that is our rules for volunteers. There will be no drinking on project. And finally, a couple of slides that make people look at me a bit strangely when I talk about this. But for us, it really is important that people are coming out for the right reasons, as much as to protect your experience as to protect us as an organisation. But here's a couple of reasons why you potentially shouldn't be joining a Think Pacific project. So if you're looking for a holiday, don't get me wrong, Fiji is brilliant for a holiday. It's beautiful. There is snorkeling, white sandy beaches, palm trees. However, that's not a Think Pacific project. Think Pacific projects are full on and they are tiring, and we want to make sure that you guys understand you're not here for a holiday. If you don't enjoy working in a team environment, you're going to hate project because you're with a big team of volunteers and working in the community. So a really, really important thing to factor into. If you think those challenges I just mentioned might be a bit much for you at the moment, again, that's absolutely fine. Think Pacific's always going to be here. So if you want to spend a few years getting ready for those and coming back to us when you feel more prepared, we are more than happy for that to happen. A big one, if you simply don't feel connected to Think Pacific, if you don't agree with what we're doing and our aims and initiatives, probably best not to come on a project. And if you're not ready to challenge your perspectives, see the world through a different set of eyes, hear about how different people live, then again, Think Pacific might not be the one for you. However, hopefully that slide doesn't feel like it sits with you, and this is the one that you feel connected with. So The reasons why you should join a Think Pacific project. If you're open-minded and willing to take on new challenges with a learning mindset and being open to that is really, really important. If you have a passion for encountering new perspectives, as we say, meeting new people, hearing new ideas, seeing the world differently, if you want that personal and professional development that a project can bring and understand how that will happen, if you've got a passion for sustainable development and our projects, and if the idea of living in a community really excites you, then we would absolutely love to have you come and join a Think Pacific project. So last but not least, very briefly on just how that happens. How can you join a project? These are our project dates for the summer. So you can see that there's plenty of different projects available across all of the different types. We are getting a little bit full at the moment. So if this is something that you are interested in, I could definitely recommend getting that application in sooner rather than later. We expect to be filling up within the next few weeks and months. So if it is something you're considering, I cannot encourage you enough to drop a message to the team and get applying ASAP. Something to consider as well is your project costs. So for all of our projects, there is a 195 registration fee plus your project fee. So for a 1 month project, that is £1,950. And this will cover everything in country, from all your training, your briefing and your debrief at the either end, your accommodation, your 24/7 in country support, your leaders, the team, your weekend excursions, your domestic travel. All of that is covered by your project fee. On top of that, you would, however, have to purchase your flights. So that is all booked and arranged independently by you. And you're looking at around the 1,200 mark for flights out to Fiji. The visa is no cost to that. That's free. We just ask that all of our volunteers obtain a DBS check if they've not already had one, just from a safeguarding perspective for the communities that we're serving. You want a travel insurance. That's not special for Think Pacific. That is standard practice when you are traveling, that you will need to have comprehensive travel insurance. And we always recommend having some money set aside. This can either be spending money to buy your Fijian clothes or any snacks. Realistically, you won't need too much for that. But we do really recommend having a little set of money for those just in case scenarios, just in case you might need to visit a doctor's. Or if you want to have a little holiday by yourself at the end, making sure that you've got money set aside to do that so you're never left without. That being said, the really exciting thing is that there is funding available from your university. So for all undergraduate students looking to join a Think Pacific project, this is the amount of funding that you're eligible to receive. So 16 days is £1,000, 1 month is 1,200, and 2 months is 2,160, which is incredibly generous funding from the university. And there's not many unis that offer that same level of funding and support for what as that Cardiff offers. So that is the minimum you can obtain. If you meet certain criteria that will be assessed by the university, you are able to receive even more than that. So the key is with the funding, it is all managed and overseen by Cardiff University, and you would need to reach out to the Global Opportunities Department to ask them about your eligibility and the criteria and the forms that you'd need to complete to find out how much you would be eligible for. But as you can see, it is a very, very generous amount. And on top of that, we really encourage students as well to fundraise, setting up GoFundMes or activities and advice to complete fundraising and help cover those additional project costs and project fees. And we do have a fundraising guide that you can access as well to help support that. So the application process from here is you can apply to Think Pacific online via our website, which is www.thinkpacific.com. There is a big section at the top that says apply here. Our team will then reach out to you to book in for an interview and an application call, where we can go through a couple of things, find out your project interests and help settle you onto a project. You can then go back to university and apply for funding before then confirming your space with Think Pacific. And that's when we can begin all of your pre-departure training and support. So that support consists of access to an online platform called Mighty Networks, where you get to meet everyone who's coming out this summer, meet the rest of the team, meet people on your project. We'll be hosting live webinars for you to attend and training sessions, as well as weekly drop-ins and Q&As. And we'll also be giving you access to our online portal, which is compulsory to work through. It's like your Think Pacific Bible, essentially. And it will go through absolutely everything you need to know before joining project, from the mindset you need to how you book your flights, to what clothes are appropriate to bring and to wear in the village, to how to make sure you've got the right documentation. Everything is covered on that portal. And of course, you have myself and the rest of the Think Pacific team for any questions about Fiji, and your wonderful university staff for any questions about funding. One last slide. For those of you who are slightly concerned about going to tell your parents you think you're going to Fiji, although we are a Fijian-based organisation, we adhere to UK standards of risk assessment and safety guidelines. So everything is fully risk assessed and has comprehensive management plans for your safety. And that is all done through 24/7 support. So you have your leaders with you in the village who are there every step of the way. They are there to support and guide your experience. And they're there 24/7, so they're there whenever you need them. They are backed up by our project coordinators who also work on a 24/7 basis. So if at any point something needs to be raised with management, it's just your leaders will get on the phone and get to them very quickly. And obviously we have our UK-based office team and our Fiji office team. With a 12-hour time difference actually means that someone is awake at all points of the day. So there is a lot of support behind the scenes for you guys out in country. And in terms of healthcare, we're only a short distance away from the nearest medical facility, which could be a nursing station or a local doctor's, and always aim to be within a couple of hours of a big hospital. So fingers crossed, we'd never need to use that, but if we did, it is all there. And if you're bored of hearing from me, I encourage you to take a look at some testimonials from previous volunteers and people who have joined the Think Pacific project about their experiences and what they have to say. So there is lots of blogs, videos, testimonials, all which you can access through this QR code that I'm blocking, and via our website as well. And that is everything from me, other than to say a huge Banaka Baka Levu for listening. The next stages are for you to apply online, and if you have any questions, you can send them to info@thinkpacific.com, and myself or one of the team will get back to you as soon as possible.
Fiona, thanks very much for that. That was really informative, loads of fantastic information. Hopefully everyone watching this will have, pretty much everything that they need to know now to, as you importantly said, to make that decision as to whether this is the right project for them, because we appreciate that it might not necessarily, particularly with regards to some of the challenges that you've mentioned. I think it's really important to say that everybody probably has a bit of a preconception about Fiji, and whilst a lot of those pictures, they are accurate, there are some fantastically beautiful parts of Fiji that you will get to experience, but the nuts and bolts of the project, you are there to be on project and to volunteer and to really immerse yourself in the culture and the lifestyle. So that does come with its own challenges, so really important to mention that. Also, thanks for pointing out the funding. It's really generous funding on offer, so that will hopefully be a real incentive to you as well. There's lots of information on the student intranet that you can find. If you search Spend Time Abroad, or if you search for international summer programs, you'll eventually be able to navigate through to the volunteering page, which is where you'll find a specific page for the Think Pacific Fiji project. That has all the sort of facts and figures listed. There's also confirmation and clarification on how to apply and what to do next. So we hope to see lots more applications in the next few weeks. But again, Sienna, I will say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks again.